Good morning, good people of God. It's Father Edward Looney, and you are celebrating the 12 days of Christmas with me as I continue to record these shows and release them on YouTube and on Facebook. Today, actually, this episode is going to go up as a bonus episode on my audio podcast. Hey, everybody, it's Father Edward. The audio podcast, hey everybody, it's Father Edward. Those conversations now are all recorded for the most part. There's a few exceptions here and there, but are recorded through Zoom. So the audio podcast has become a video podcast. Those video interviews are released on YouTube every Monday or whatever day I release the episode. If it's not Monday, that's the goal, is always Monday, but sometimes life happens and life is busy, and so it could be a Tuesday. But this is just an encouragement as we do the crossover to the audio podcast today that you can listen both on YouTube and through the audio. And for our audio listeners, this is just a good reminder to go over to Facebook, give me a follow at FR Edward Looney, or find me on YouTube. I'm just Edward Looney on YouTube. Created the YouTube channel back before I was a priest, and it's difficult to change your handle on YouTube. So please give me a follow over on those platforms so you won't miss the content. Also have a growing TikTok, which I never thought that I would say. So we're doing the 12 Days of Christmas because Door County Coffee gratuitously sent me a box, the 12 Days of Christmas calendar. I had done the Advent calendar in the past and just didn't, this year, didn't acquire it, wasn't up in Door County, couldn't buy it. And I was surprised, when this 12 Days of Christmas came in the mail because I didn't order it. Nobody I know sent it to me. It seems that Door County sent it to me. Door County Coffee sent it to me as a little gift. So I'm very appreciative of that. Had I found an Advent calendar, I don't know if I would have actually done a show this year. Just because life was super busy again during Advent and little extra time here, the 12 days of Christmas. We're observing the traditional 12 days of Christmas. In our count, I'm on day 6. It's actually day 7. It did really begin on Christmas, but I didn't begin the shows till December 26th. So that's why we're a day behind, but we're going to finish the 12 days, I think, on on January 6th. So on the Feast of the Epiphany, the traditional day of the Feast of the Epiphany. So we have a great show in store for you today. We're going to talk about the coffee, of course. We're going to review 2024. That's why it's a crossover show. I'm going to talk about some of my favorite best podcasts of 2024 that I recorded. We're going to talk about tombs I visited, movies I've watched, books I've read. So 2024 in review, maybe a few ideas, a few goals for next year that could be coming your way as well. So these are things we're going to talk about today. But first, let's get to our Door County Coffee and see what the flavor of the day is today. So this is a popular flavor from other companies as well. And I because I know I've seen it outside of Door County Coffee, I guess it's not trademarked. It's not copyrighted. Maybe this is a phrase from Ireland that people are able then to freely use in their companies. But it is, if you caught the reference to Ireland, it is Highlander Grogg coffee today from Door County Coffee. This, of course, has an Irish flavor to it. It's perfect for your St. Patrick's Day celebrations coming up in March of 2025. Maybe brew this coffee all month long in the month of St. Patrick. But Highlander Grogg, notes of caramel and Irish creme, our fan favorite. So this is one of their standards. This is the cream of the crop. This is what everybody loves from Door County Coffee, a fan favorite. They probably had a poll, I'm assuming, and that's how they were able to determine this. So let's take a drink here of Highlander Grogg coffee. It's just as I remember it. I said that yesterday too about what was it, Jingle Bell Java. But I've had pretty much every flavor of Door County coffee through the years. So I am a fan of the coffee. I'm excited too. In the new year, there'll be a little coffee review. That'll be short little content, little reels I'll put out on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. But someone gifted me coffee from Thailand. Now, I don't think they went to Thailand and got it. I think it was, probably from one of these world goods stores or something like that. But person follows me on social media. They know I drink coffee, and in my Christmas gift bag, it was this coffee from Thailand. So I'll be trying that in a video. So I'll record that. So you can look forward to that sometime here in the next, probably a few weeks or what have you. Probably will want to finish up my St. Nick coffee from Catholic Coffee Company as well. So we'll be doing that. And then probably that Thailand coffee. So for our audio listeners, this show is pre-recorded, but it's released. It's not edited, so it's kind of like a live show. Used to live stream these things through a program, but the program like doubled in the subscription rate, and I just didn't think it was of value to me to maintain that subscription. But that allowed me to simultaneously broadcast to Facebook and YouTube. But now we are just doing the pre-record, and then I simply upload the video afterwards. Or in the audio case, I'll upload the audio today. So let's get to today's topic. Today's topic is 2024 in review. Sometimes I hesitate sharing like things I watch or things I listen to just because, people are very critical. Surprise, surprise. But people will come after you. They will come after you in the comments. They will send you nasty direct messages or emails. And sometimes people will even call the chancery because they don't agree with a movie review that I've done. That's happened once, happened last year during the Christmas season. So suffice to say, sometimes I hesitate sharing, little things that, are, I don't want to call it private, but maybe you'll understand once I share. But I listen because you have to remember I am a lover of film, so a lot of content I bring you are like comments on movies, film. I am so lover of film, television, etc. So I listen to NPR. Okay, that's the shock wave right there. Okay, so I listen to NPR's Pop Culture Happy Hour. Partly because every Friday they give a little take on one of the recently released that Friday movie. So like last week it was The Complete Unknown. I didn't listen to it because I anticipated going to see The Complete Unknown. Haven't done that yet, but want to still. But they'll talk about current films being released, etc. So I like getting their thoughts, their takes. So I do listen to NPR Pop Culture Happy Hour. I listened to their take on Juror number 2 after I watched it. So usually I'll watch the movie and then I'll listen. I don't want to be prejudiced. So that's kind of the shock thing that I'm sharing. But I just listened to the Pop Culture 2024 year in review. They went back and they listened to what their resolutions for 2024 were, and then they commented if they did them, and then they made their resolutions for 2025. So I find that stuff fascinating, interesting, hearing what other people are doing, etc. So today we're just going to do 2024 year in review. Tomorrow we're going to talk about goals for the new year. I might share just one goal since we're going to talk about the podcast. I anticipate releasing tomorrow's video and episode also on the audio platform as a bonus episode as well. So that's one thing in the podcast I'm looking to do in the upcoming year is just additional bonus content. I did a few times this past year with like Father Edward Goes to the Movies. So I gave a Conclave reaction. I gave maybe another movie reaction. I regret not doing my Beetlejuice reaction. I had written something. I was about halfway done with a piece on Beetlejuice, and somehow it vanished from my computer, much like today's 2024 year in review. I was at a coffee shop on Saturday and I was plunking away at my keyboard. I was actually writing my Living Faith columns. That was something new for me in 2024. Writing for Living Faith, 180 words. That's your limit for the daily reflection of the month, that I contribute. I post those pictures over on Facebook, Instagram. Uh, is there another platform? LinkedIn. So I post that just to share, encourage subscriptions as well to Living Faith. One of the things we need to do at Sacred Heart is we need to order like 30 Living Faith booklets and just put them out for the people, just as a little gift, from the parish each quarter as they are released. So I was plunking away at my keyboard, writing my Living Faith column. After I was done, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna look at my 2024 year in review. Maybe, I'll do this episode for the coffee. Maybe I will put it out as an email to my MailChimp subscribers. That's something I'd like to be more dedicated to. I realize like a lot of these things I only do as I'm able. I really could use a helper, with my uh, kind of marketing and whatnot. My just kind of my I need like a content manager, but I don't have the funds to pay a content manager, so we can't do that. So, but I'm sure like this content would reach more people if I had someone dedicated to doing a weekly MailChimp for me and keeping me on track and things like that. So I had at the coffee shop typed up things that I wanted to say on the show today. And you know what happened? I told you yesterday in the video show, I said my computer died. And it didn't like die. It just needed to be plugged in. But somehow, obviously, like computer dies, doesn't die. So the computer dies and all my open documents, and I didn't save it, so maybe that's a resolution for next year, save documents. That's the second thing I told you about the Beetlejuice. That's this thing today. So I thought, things that I wanted to talk about on the show today. Tombs of holy people I visited, best movies I've watched, my favorite podcast that I recorded this year, and the books that I read. So I think you'll enjoy it. And so let's talk about tombs of people I have visited. This is a list of holy people. I call them tombs of holy people I visited because some are saints, some are blesseds, some are venerables, some are servants of God. Actually, remembered one I should add to this list, so let me type it in here. Uh, there we go. So, okay. So, tombs of holy people I visited, and then there's people that I think should be saints that aren't saints yet. So, tombs of holy people I visited. One of the first ones to mention, Saint Theodora Guerin, Mother Theodora Guerin. I went down. This is in right by. Oh gosh, people are gonna make fun of me. My secretary always makes fun of me because I don't know how to say this city name. Terre Haute. I went down to Terre Haute, Indiana, visited the tomb, the shrine to Mother Theodora Guerin. Kind of was scoping it out for a future bus trip. And just was really impressed by her story. So as I go to the shrine of Mother Theodora Guerin, they have a little museum or signs that are telling her life, etc. And one of the things that really struck me was just like I don't want to say that she stood up to the bishop, and I have to like I'd have to go back and find the picture I took of this, but essentially like the hierarchy didn't like her, and so they tried to basically make her go away. But she remained faithful to God and all of it, and she really stood against kind of oppressive hierarchy. And I now you could hear me. Oop, sorry, touch the mic there. Now you could hear me say this, and you might think, Father, I can't believe you're a feminist or something like that. No, don't think that. Like, but I just, if you look at the church throughout the history of the church, and I guess I'm sensitive to this because I have, and I know other people who have been persecuted by oppressive individuals in the church. And uh, so I guess I'm a bit more sensitive to this, but so I really could relate to Mother Theodora Guerin because of kind of this kind of butting heads with the church hierarchy. She's a saint, so obviously that didn't disqualify her from sainthood. She did it in a holy and a godly way, but that's one thing that just stood out to me from her life. When I visit a lot of these shrines, I buy books about the individuals. I would love to read the book that I have about St. Theodore Guerin. Okay, so the next one I visited, St. Rose Philippine Duchesne. I actually visited her tomb twice, once in September, once in November. In November, I went out of my way, probably drove like an extra 4 or 5 hours, but it allowed me to do other things as well. So uh, it was God's gift to me. But I was able to pray at St. Rose Philippine Duchesne's grave on her feast day. And I was really moved by St. Rose Philippine Duchesne over the years of my priesthood because every year the little Ordo book, which just helps the priest to know who to pray for and what to, what prefaces. It's just kind of like a guidebook for priests for daily mass and the breviary, etc. It has all the people who have died from the previous year, from the previous years, spanning centuries, from your chance or from your diocese. So a beautiful little booklet, right? So there's a bio of St. Rose Philippine Duchesne, and every year it would be like the natives, the Potawatomi, they called her woman who prays always. And I just was always inspired by the fact that this woman prayed always. So I really wanted, and she was in Missouri. She's buried in St. Charles, Missouri. I'm like, I went to school in Missouri. I've been to St. Louis before too. How is it that I've not been to this tomb, this grave? So ended up praying there twice. Very much. I bought a statue of her. I really do take her as one of my favored intercessors. Just someone that prays for me as I ask her to do so. Blessed Solanus Casey, that was a return visit. I'm so fortunate too that I live about 45 minutes. No, scratch that, maybe 55 minutes, an hour. I live about an hour from where a Catholic blessed is buried, Blessed James Miller, in the cemetery in Ellis. I think it's in Ellis, Wisconsin. Uh, So a lot of times when I am driving to like the Madison area or whatever, I am driving to Stevens Point, and it's on the way. Cemetery's on the right as I'm driving to Stevens Point. So I always stop and I pray at his grave. So I visited his grave numerous times, maybe half a dozen, maybe even more. I took two sets of people there, a priest friend, Father Nick, and then some friends that were visiting from LA. Took them to see Blessed James Miller's grave. It's just one of those things where a Catholic blessed is buried an hour away. And if you're bringing in a devout Catholic into your life or something, like they're visiting, I just think it's one of those things like, why wouldn't you go to it? But I'm weird, so I understand that. The tomb or the grave of Venerable Samuel Mazzucchelli, that's down near Dubuque. Uh, I had a powerful experience at his grave about 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago now. Just very powerful. And I just visit his grave anytime that I'm in the area because yeah, I believe he's a saint. One of my goals, I got to get to the sisters down there, the Sinsinawa Dominicans. Got to get to their convent because I think they have some sacramental that you could pray with that Father Samuel, it was Father Samuel Mazzucchelli's like, I forget what it is, but you could hold it like if it's a stole or whatever. But I just really would love to pray with a relic of his. Venerable Frederick Baraga, that is up in Marquette. He is buried in the cathedral there. Took a bus group up there. A bus group and we went to Blessed Solanus Casey and to Frederick Baraga. I just always, he's called the snowshoe priest, snowshoe bishop, but I'm impressed by his dedication, his zeal for the gospel. Mother Angelica visited her tomb. Was I there twice? No, I think I was just there once, but I was just there in November. Just, either you love Mother Angelica or you hate her. I love Mother Angelica. I think she has done so much to build up the faith of the people in America. There are many priests who are priests today because of her and her television network. So I am incredibly grateful to Mother Angelica. Love praying at her tomb. I prayed at the grave of Father Lucas Etlin. I have a table over there. There's a prayer card to Father Lucas over there. But Father Lucas Etlin, monk of Conception Abbey, chaplain to the Sisters in Clyde. I have a book proposal, actually, that I have sent to a publisher. They were pretty agreeable to want to do this. But so I finally sent them the writing samples of because it'll be like 30 meditations or something. So they wanted just to see what some of them would look like. So we could have a book deal for about Father Lucas Etlin in the upcoming year. Prayed at his tomb. I've prayed for his intercession since my time as a student at Conception Abbey. I wrote about him in my book, How They Love Mary, so you can catch or read a little bit about his Marian devotion. And I did an episode on my podcast, and it's in the top 15. So we have over 300 episodes on this podcast. Like, I think we're at 308, 309, and that's not counting bonus content like today's episode. This does not get numbered. The numbered episodes are either talks I've given, which are few episodes, or they're interviews that I've done, or monologues, I suppose, too. But I won't number this episode, is what I'm saying. So, Father Lucas Etlin, that is in the top 15 of the 300 plus episodes of the show. So people were very much interested in listening to my conversation with Father Pacomius Mead about Father Lucas Etlin. We have Sister Wilhelmina. She is the incorruptible foundress of the Benedictine Sisters of Mary, Queen of the Apostles, down in Gower, Missouri. And I was able to pray there. And that was a special moment of prayer as well. So visited her tomb. And last tomb I visited, Father James Coyle, last grave. This was in a cemetery. Father James Coyle. He was a priest murdered, maybe in the 1920s. I'm just guessing here. In the early part of the 20th century, he was murdered by a Protestant minister because he witnessed the marriage of the Protestant minister's daughter to a person of color. And so he was murdered on the steps, on the front stoop, really, of the rectory of the cathedral in Birmingham, Alabama. So I visited his grave back in November as well. So those are the holy graves that I have visited that I remember. Could there be other graves that I visited? Yes. But these are the ones that I specifically remember. Some of them were return visits, others were visits for the very first time. How about best movies that I watched? So, a lot of you know I get screener links, I write reviews. It doesn't look like I wrote a lot of reviews this year, which, unless there's a place I wrote reviews that I'm forgetting about. But I checked, my author log on different websites, and I couldn't find many places. So I think I must have just done a lot of interviews. I must have done a lot of like videos on takes. I have been moving more to like movie responses to film as a video. So best movies that I watched, and I'm sure that I watched, I don't know, 20, 30 movies, I bet. I couldn't even, I couldn't give you a number. This is one of the goals for next year. I'm not going to tell you right now what it is, but tune in tomorrow. But so best movies I watch. This is what I came up with, and I'm sure that there are other movies that I watched, on streaming platforms, whatever, that just aren't didn't come to mind. The best movie that I watched this year was The Best Christmas Pageant Ever. Incredible, phenomenal. Just really loved that movie. So, yeah, highly recommend. It's available. You could buy it. So, you're like, oh, best Christmas pageant ever, $20 on Amazon Prime. Well, if you just think about it, if you would have went to the movie theater and if it was you and your husband or you and your wife, you would have spent $15 on a ticket. Let's just say $13 on a ticket. You would have spent $26 on a ticket. You would have bought a bucket of popcorn, bought a soda. You would have spent about $50 going to the movie theater as a date night to see Best Christmas Pageant Ever. You can watch it from the comfort of your own home during the 12 days of Christmas, during the Christmas octave if you watched it today. Uh, Best Christmas Pageant Ever. I can't recommend the movie enough. There's another movie. It was a Holocaust movie. It's called Irina's Vow. Irina's Vow. It didn't get a lot of playing time. It was only in theaters for like 2 days. It was a Fathom event. I don't know where it's streaming online right now, but I thought that was a really powerful film. Very powerful. I really liked the movie Twister. That might surprise people, kind of. That's a out of nowhere mention, but I like the movie Twister. And this movie is surprising to me that I'm putting it on the list. But I was given a screener link for the movie My Penguin Friend. And it started out in a very like goofy isn't the right word, but it started out in a way that I'm like, I don't know what I'm watching. But then I watched the movie and I just thought it was a cute story about this penguin that kept coming back to the same island every, I don't know, every February. And this guy, like, would welcome the penguin into his home and all this. And it was just a wonderful little story. Did an interview about that, released it on the podcast. So, but I thought it was a cute little movie. Now, you listen to some of these secular podcasts, they're going to talk about a lot of the blockbuster hits. Um, I don't talk about those. I like highlighting these small market films that not a lot of people talk about. I do personally think, in all of my listening to mainstream shows like Matt Bellany and The Town and NPR Pop Culture Happy Hour. There's another one with Kim Masters that I only listen to the beginning part, but I forget what it's called. But anyways, I think the biggest crime of 2024 was that the best Christmas pageant ever was never mentioned by any of these people. And maybe it's because they weren't paid to talk about it. But the best Christmas pageant ever surprised people at the box offices. At the box office. It was uh what was it? Was it number one or it was number two? And it ranked in the top five for weeks, I think. So, like, I just think it's a crime that nobody even acknowledged it. It's like, no, no, we can't acknowledge this. Look the other way. But I think that was the big surprise hit of 2024 in terms of people didn't see it coming. Christian takeover at the theater. There are other movies that happen like I was going through the year in review and I saw Cabrini came out in 2024. Seems like it came out more than a year ago, but uh, that wasn't the box office hit that people wanted. Another one that surprised people was Sound of Freedom. Sound of Freedom. This was like three years ago now. It outperformed everybody's expectations, but nobody wants to talk about. I will say this: best Christmas pageant ever. A lot of different secular, whether it's, I don't know. I'm gonna make up some stuff. Hollywood Reporter, Variety. I don't know which ones did, but there were some pretty popular articles that were written about best uh, about the best Christmas pageant ever. So it did get attention in the written word, but not a lot in the spoken word. So all right, best podcasts I recorded in 2024. I didn't count how many episodes I released. Sometimes we release 2 episodes in a week. Sometimes we don't release an episode like last week. So it's just hard for me. Suffice to say, there were probably about 52 episodes, averaging about one a week, if I had to guess. Uh, and these are not like the episodes that perform the best. These aren't the episodes that perform the best. This isn't a top 5 or 10 or 8, or I don't know how many I wrote out here, but this isn't the top list of the year. This is rather the conversations that I had that I loved and enjoyed. And I don't want to say that and then have you think, oh, well, he didn't enjoy the other podcast episodes that he did. No, it's not that. But these are the ones that when I look back over the year in review, I'm like, oh, yeah, that was a great conversation. It's not that the other ones weren't great, but these stood out to me. I hope you understand what I'm trying to communicate. And I hope you don't come to a conclusion that isn't what I want you to conclude. Best podcasts of 2024 that I recorded. I would say this one. This one changed my life, quite literally. I wrote an article for Crisis Magazine maybe in October. I think so. October. But it was the conversation I had with Father John Hogan. And we talked about Father Willie Doyle. We also talked about St. Thomas Becket. But he introduced me to Father Willie Doyle, told me the story. After that conversation I had with Father Hogan, it was like the best priestly fraternity that I had in the last 5 years. Like, we have a lot of the same interests. We had a great conversation. We talked for an hour after we recorded. Uh, yeah, thoroughly enjoyed that conversation. It led me to read about Father Willie Doyle. Father Willie Doyle's writings literally changed my life, changed my heart, changed my perspective. Uh, Father Willie Doyle, as the article said, made me a better priest. So I have to tell you, that's the best podcast episode of 2024. You should go back and look for Father John Hogan in my podcast archive. The easiest way to do that probably is to head over to heyeverybody.fireside.fm, type in his name in the search bar. You can listen on the browser, or just find the episode number and go over to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or you could probably find it as well on the YouTube. If you just type in Father John Hogan, Father Edward Looney, maybe you'll find that interview as well. So, Father John Hogan, definitely one of the best interviews I've done. Another episode is the one I did with Father Mitch Pacwa on Isaiah. And it's not because, I thought it was a great conversation. It was a good conversation. What I'm trying to say here is that what made me enjoy the conversation with Father Mitch Pacwa is because I watched him as a little boy. I'm talking like 10 years old. Mother Angelica's EWTN. Him praying the rosary in the Holy Land at 6:30 in the morning before I'd go off to school. And so to realize like 20 plus years later, here I am interviewing a person that was formative in my years, a veteran Catholic commentator. So it was just kind of one of those like moments where you just stand in awe of the moment. Uh, Today, actually, so some of you might be like, Father, you're wearing a collar. Now, typically, I wear a collar every day in public ministry. But over the last few days, kind of more relaxed schedule. I was, or on my day off, I'll have an Oxford shirt on, whatever. I probably would have dressed down this morning, but I'm interviewing Teresa Tomeo, veteran journalist for EWTN Radio and Ave Maria Radio. We're recording an episode for the podcast that'll come out in January. So that's why I'm dressed in my blacks for the video recording and whatnot. But, that's another next year. I'm sure we'll talk about the Teresa Tomeo interview. I interviewed her once before, but it's just like, I can't believe that these things happen in my life. I wrote down James of Michigan. James of Michigan. Person, I think I just happened to follow on Twitter. Maybe someone retweeted him. But he did this thing. He literally picked up from his home in, I don't know, southern Michigan, up where, yeah, southern Michigan. And he walked the lakeshore of Lake Michigan. And he made it like a little way for him, like, the way, the El Camino. But he created his own here in Michigan. And so, well, I followed it. And it was my hope maybe to drive up and to like walk with him for a day. Didn't happen. But I was able to talk with him on the podcast and to share an interview with him. Just a fascinating experience, him recounting that. So, James of Michigan, a standout episode. The Church Traveler, I think her name's Anna. The Church Traveler person, again, saw on Instagram, posts lots of pictures of churches that she had visited. She's branching out now and posting other people's pictures. Personally, I think she should just stick to what she does, like, and not like give. I don't think you should take someone else's pictures and then give them the photo. That's just me talking, but I love her content. I love seeing the churches, but just talking to her about her experience of going and seeing different churches and what's that experience like? Something she does in her pastime. Just yeah, I thought it was a good conversation. Standout conversation to me. Paul Kengor, Dr. Paul Kengor, interviewed him about his book, The Stigmatists. Uh, and the interview was great. I enjoyed the interview. But again, this is one of those where, like, I read a book of his about Ronald Reagan and Our Lady of Fatima. And so I've stood in awe of his intellect for years. And then I had the opportunity to talk with him. And then lastly, the last podcast episode I want to reference was a conversation I had with Dan Merchant. Dan Merchant is a screenwriter, producer, director. I'm not sure all his titles. He did a show on hospice and death and dying. It's on Great American Family or Great American Family Pureflix, if that's what it's called. I forget what the platform is called. But and I think the show is called Going Home. So like going home to God. And I could be wrong. I don't know if that's the show name. I think it is. You'd have to go back and listen to the episode. But what I want to say about this episode is the man is hilarious. I was rolling on the floor almost laughing while I was interviewing this guy. But then at the end of the show, he told me about this live plus local on Great American Family on that streaming service. And the premise of the show was that it was like Christian radio station old guy who's been there, as the DJ and host for years. Young gal comes in, just the tension between the two. Like it's laugh out loud funny. Just I watched the show. You know, talking about it right now makes me want to go watch it again, rewatch it. So, uh yeah, just incredible. Incredible show. So Dan Merchant, I look back and I say I really enjoyed that episode. I enjoyed all the conversations I had. These are just the ones that are stand out. You know, in in media work, a lot of times personalities will put together what's called a highlight reel, and so it's just these are my greatest moments. If I had to say, these are some of my greatest moments in podcasting in 2024. One of the takeaways from podcasting this year, too, going, like I said, through the year in review, I was surprised that some of these interviews took place in 2024. I've enjoyed a great interviewing relationship with Roma Downey. She'll message me on Instagram, ask me to do an interview for her with her. She did a show called The Baxters on Amazon Prime. I was looking through the list of episodes. I couldn't believe that The Baxters came out in 2024. Would have thought it was 2023. Another interview I did, talking about Highlander Grogg coffee from Dorcounty Coffee in Ireland. I did an interview St. Patrick's Day, March 17th. Aaron Burns, filmmaker. But he wrote a devotional. Protestant guy wrote a devotional about St. Patrick. I looked back and I saw that episode happened this year. I'm like, oh, had no idea that it was only a few, half a year ago. More than that now. So, podcasting, and the interviews you have, I guess you have so many that kind of all begin to become a blur, but I really enjoyed taking a look personally over my repertoire for 2024 and the interviews that I did. Just for those who are interested, things that are coming to the podcast feed and to YouTube, Facebook in 2025. Right now, many of you know I'm finishing up reading the 4 volumes of Anne Catherine Emmerich's Mystical Revelations, The Life of Jesus Christ and Biblical Revelation. I've been pre-recording and recording those episodes for Tan Books, and I will look forward to when that project is finished. I am looking forward to that. But I know that, latter portion of 2025, I would love to bring you an additional episode each week. Probably instead, this is what I've noticed. I've noticed in podcasting that the podcasts I subscribe to, they're putting out so you have the main umbrella podcast. So hey everybody, it's Father Edward. That's the staple conversation on Monday's anticipated release day every week. And then you have then they put in okay, here's a second show that this person is doing, and so this is a second episode, but we're gonna brand it differently, but still put it in your feed. And then they even do that a third time sometimes. So I'm gonna try to do that, do a little more multi-branding under hey everybody, it's Father Edward. That Father Edward Goes to the Movies probably will be, have its own artwork and be a part of the Hey Everybody, It's Father Edward RSS feed. That will be developed a bit more. But I want to do the Song of Songs and read and comment on, I think it's 80 homilies. I don't know how many homilies, but on the sermons of St. Bernard of Clairvaux. I want to go through and comment on each one. So I don't know if those episodes are going to be 5 or 10 minutes long, but I want to read all of the homilies of Bernard of Clairvaux on the Song of Songs. So that's going to come to the podcast feed as well. So those are things you can look forward to in 2025. I know that the show's getting long. I didn't anticipate it going this long. I thought it'd be a quicker review, but I am a man who talks a lot, I guess. So there's two other things we got to do on the show today. I want to go over books I read in 2024, and then I want to obviously do the reflection on the the collect prayer for today. So those are the things. So I'm going to pull up my Goodreads account here. That's a wonderful way for us, you and me, to keep track of what we read. Um, so I was actually updating it last night. I finished an audiobook and when I was driving. So 2024 year in books. It says, oh, good. It has updated. It had not updated when I uploaded this morning, or yeah, uploaded at like midnight. The two other books I noticed were not in the year in review count. So my Goodreads says my year in books. I read 3,296 pages. I read 10 books. Uh, that was short of my goal. My goal was actually 20 books. I think, reading Anne Catherine Emmerich, that kind of like bogs me down. That's like an hour of my time when I record 2 or 3 episodes. So I don't get a lot of free time reading. The other problem too is like as a writer and a researcher is that a lot of times I only read like a chapter of a book because I need it for research. Like, what does this person say about Necedah? If I'm writing about Necedah, Wisconsin. So I won't read a whole book, but I'll read a chapter, but then you don't record that. So uh these are the books I read, let's see, in 2024. Is that all 10? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Here they are. So I read The Glories of Mary. That was in collaboration with Tan Books. They wanted me to do a commentary on The Glories of Mary. So I think there were about 12 episodes. You could find that over at Tan Books, the commentaries podcast series. You could scroll back. You could find the episodes I did about The Glories of Mary. I read Father Goyo Hidalgo's book, From Prodigal to Priest. It was just really great just to hear his life as a priest and just be inspired by another priest. Zach Williams wrote a book. He's a Christian artist, a CCM artist, rescue story. So you probably heard that song on CCM. But yeah, I wasn't overly impressed with it, but it was just one of those where I'm like, oh, it was just like one of those. I don't want to call it like a mind numbing, but it was like I wanted to listen to something. I didn't want to listen to something heavy. And so that book, I listened to it. So, uh, Kiara Lubick wrote a book about the Eucharist called The Sun That Daily Rises. She, Kiara Lubick's deceased, so I was able to read the book though, so I enjoyed that. The Life of Jesus Christ. I read volume 1 and volume 2 in this year. I'm almost done with volume 3. Wished I could have got that on the record as having read in 2024. I will finish it in 2025, so it will get credited to next year. But I read the 2 volumes of that. I'll read 2 more volumes and then I'll be done. Sister Wilhelmina, I read her life. Uh, Phenomenal. That is one biography of a nun that like you should run and buy it on like you should close out and go over to Amazon right now and order The Life of Sister Wilhelmina. Uh Available I think from Tan Books. To Raise the Fallen, that's the life and letters of Father Willie Doyle. Really changed my life. I listened to a book by Carlos Whitaker. Carlos Whitaker, evangelical Christian. It's called Reconnected. And he talks about how for, what was it, 90 days he detoxed. He didn't use a phone for 90 days. And maybe it wasn't 90 days. Maybe it was just 2 months. So 1 month he spent at a Benedictine monastery in California where his wife's uncle or something is a member of the community. And so he lived the life of a monk, praying every day, doing all those things. So, uh, but he, again, detoxed from the phone. So I just thought it was a marvelous account of like, I was curious how uh, evangelical connects with Catholicism and stuff. I have an invite out to him to be on the podcast to record an episode. So please, God, let that happen. But I thought it was an interesting conversation. He also, not only did he stay with monks for a month, but he stayed with the Amish for another month. So, uh, and the last book that I read was Life After Power. I actually listened to it on Audible. It's by an author named Jared Cohen. He wrote one of my favorite U.S. history books called Accidental Presidents. And Life After Power talks about seven presidents and their search for purpose beyond the White House. So, one of the things I do love is I do love presidential history. I love so every year, if you go back and you look at my year in review for books, I always read like one political book usually a year. So one year it was Neil Gorsuch's book on being in the Supreme Court, and yeah, so every year there is that political book that I read. So After Power by Jared Cohen, do recommend that. So uh those are the books I read. There is one book that I am currently reading that I didn't finish in 2024, and that is Kevin Wells's book called The Hermit. I'm two-thirds of the way done with it. I'd love to finish it up here. You know, could be a December 31st goal, finish the book today. Uh, who knows? But that's just a great read. I'll have him on the podcast. We text back and forth. So um, I do plan on talking about his book, The Hermit, on the pod. So there you go. That's my year in review. Sorry it took so long. I hope you stayed with me. If not, I totally understand. But if you did stay with me, you're not hearing this. So I want to draw our attention to the collect for today. I'm just pulling it up here. Here's the collect. And I think today is like the feast day or memorial of Saint Sylvester. So happy Saint Sylvester Mass to those who celebrate. Here's the opening prayer, the collect for today. Almighty ever-living God, who in the nativity of your Son established the beginning and fulfillment of all religion, grant, we pray, that we may be numbered among those who belong to him, in whom is the fullness of human salvation. Like, I think we could just listen to this prayer, and this prayer is just like a mic drop. But I think we probably need a little explanation, but like, we could almost just read this prayer and read it again and just let it sink in to our heart and to our soul. It's a powerful prayer. Almighty, ever-living God, who in the nativity of your Son established the beginning and fulfillment of all religion, grant, we pray, that we may be numbered among those who belong to him, in whom is the fullness of human salvation. You know, on Christmas Day, I think the collect, the super oblata, the prayer over the gifts, says something about like the beginning of divine worship or something like that. And the super oblata for Epiphany, it's a powerful one too. It's like something about we bring you not gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh, but bread and wine, or something like that. Just when you go to Mass for the Epiphany, listen to the Super Oblata. It's profound, just like this prayer. Almighty and ever-living God, who in the nativity of your Son established the beginning and fulfillment of all religion, grant, we pray, that we may be numbered among those who belong to him, in whom the fullness of human salvation, in whom is the fullness of human salvation. So, by the birth of Jesus, God the Father established the beginning and fulfillment of all religion. So the beginning of the church that we know it today begins with Jesus. That Jesus is the fulfillment of the longing of world religion, the longing of the Jewish people. They waited for the Messiah. He fulfills it in the nativity and the birth of Jesus. Jesus is the fulfillment of all religion, and Jesus will say in Matthew's gospel, upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. So Jesus founds a church that is the beginning and the fulfillment of all religion. Is contained within this church that Jesus founds. Grant, we pray, that we may be numbered among those who belong to him. So we talk about the 12 tribes of Israel. Those are people that belong to Almighty God. Now we have the church, and we want to be numbered among those who believe in him. We don't want to be the goats that are separated. We want to be the sheep of the Lord, who are counted among his believers, in whom is the fullness of human salvation. That the fullness of our salvation as a human person comes from the divine person Jesus, who dies, who gives his life for all of us. It's to this Savior Lord, born on Christmas Day, dies on Good Friday, rises from the dead on Easter Sunday, that we pledge our life, that we follow. It's to this Lord and Savior, to whom we are numbered as one of his followers and believers. Grant, we pray, that we may be numbered among those who belong to him. Who do you belong to? I belong to Jesus Christ. I'm Father Edward Looney, and you have been listening to a special Christmas talk show, The 12 Days of Christmas, brought to you and powered by Door County Coffee. I will be with you again tomorrow as we begin the new year. I'm looking forward to tomorrow, January 1st, not only for all the resolutions and goals and how I want to change my life that, inevitably will fail, but we'll try our best. But tomorrow I have a very special coffee mug I plan on using. So I look forward to being with you tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening to The Long Haul. This has been 2024, a year in review. And I hope that you'll always stay a follower of Jesus. God bless you.